Hello, everybody. Today we are so excited to talk to you about dizziness. Dizziness and adrenal fatigue often go hand in hand. When you're experiencing symptoms of adrenal fatigue or burnout, most likely, a lot of you have experienced this. And this can be a symptom that can be kind of scary, right, Danielle?
Yeah. I mean, if you've experienced dizziness before, to the extent that it's common enough that you Google it, it can be really scary when you Google anything, it can be a little intimidating what the results come back with. But dizziness, particularly, can cause a lot of anxiety and definitely is one of the most common questions or symptoms that we hear about in our adrenal recovery community on Facebook.
Absolutely. And it's one of those that when you feel dizzy, I know from personal experience that we go to a kind of a place of worst case scenario, right? And we start to think of the worst. But the cool thing is that there's a lot of things today that we're going to talk about that cause dizziness. So we're hopefully, when we are scared, it's usually because we don't understand something or we don't have clarity about it. So today we really want to give you some clarity and give you some reasons, pretty simple reasons why you might be dizzy that are, I guess, something you can easily address.
Yeah.
So yeah, so we're excited to talk about this because it's such a hot topic. And most importantly, because it's what a lot of our community is struggling with, and we want to give you guys answers. So shall we dive in
Yeah.
and chat
Let's
about
do.
the reasons why we can be dizzy? Okay. So one of the big ones I know that we talk a lot about with our clients, Danielle, is just considering nourishment in general. Like, what are you eating? Um, so let's talk a little bit about that.
100%. So, whenever anyone tells me like I'm experiencing dizziness, nourishment and checking in on what you've done today in the last couple of days is really important because that can give you a lot of information. And this is a really simple one, right? Like if you are kind of going through a dizzy spell and you're thinking, okay, what did I have? When was the last time I ate? Did I eat breakfast today? If if it's a really long stretch or the answer is no, like I haven't even had breakfast, then or lunch or wherever you are in the day, it could be you're just having low blood sugar or your body needs some fuel. So your body will let you know when it's hungry. And one of the most common symptoms of low blood sugar is that feeling of lightheadedness or dizziness. So sometimes it's just simply eating, right? And making sure if it's a busy work day, you're busy with the kids, you're pushing and pushing all morning, and you realize you haven't eaten in a couple hours. Sometimes it's just checking in. It's that general self-care when it comes to food and eating good meals that can make a world of a difference, or at least eating something. So that's a really amazing place to start if you're struggling with this on the regular.
Yeah, so it's when you're getting dizzy, it's instead of going to worst case scenario, just asking yourself some simple questions, right? So yeah, have I eaten today? And what have I eaten? I
Yeah.
find that sometimes if I wake up and I immediately eat something sort of sugary or even not sugary, like candy or a cupcake or a muffin, it's more like a piece of toast or something with simple carbs, and that's it, and there's no protein or there's no fat in there, that can cause an issue as well. Would you say that's sort of like having a balanced meal, or especially to start the day, would be helpful?
Yeah, if you haven't been eating well, like quality meals, and you're experiencing this, it's definitely important to look into that. So exactly like you said, when was the last time? What have I eaten? Have I eaten today? Those types of questions. And when was the last time I ate too? Because the stretch between meals is also important. So such a good place to start.
Okay, that's helpful. Awesome. So um tie into also anything else we want to talk about with like low blood sugar and sugar in general in regards to this
Yeah, so blood
dizziness?
sugar, and I mean, adrenal issues, blood sugar issues often go hand in hand. We have a whole podcast dedicated to that if you want to check it out. But blood sugar, like I said, one of the most common symptoms of hypoglycemia when your blood sugar is a little bit low is that feeling of lightheaded and dizziness. I mean, other feelings we might feel in unison with that are that hangry feeling. So we might feel like we have a short fuse or we're kind of like about to, we just feel like we need something and we need it now. So checking in on your blood sugar, especially if you have adrenal issues and you know this is one of your things, the questions that we just addressed, it comes back to that. Like, what did I eat? When was the last time I ate? What kind of food did I eat? And just making sure that you're supporting your blood sugar throughout the day for dizziness, but for adrenal recovery in general and good hormone health, that this is really important. So if you struggle with blood sugar issues, like, you really need to be on top of it. And dizziness is just one of those really common symptoms that goes along with it. So just checking in on the food is kind of important there, and the best thing that you can do to support that.
Cool. Okay, so we have lots of other um, resources, right? Free resources on our blog and our website. We have our cookbook that you created that's amazing for adrenal fatigue recovery. So if you're questioning what that even looks like and what Danielle's talking about, like, we have lots of resources. So we're not going to spend too much time on that today, because we know that these podcasts, we just want to give you as much information, and there's lots of information on what to eat, how to eat, and we have that all inside our community. So if you want
Yeah,
more help on that, just know it's out there for you. And on our
right.
YouTube channel,
The
we have
recipe book,
lots of
the
stuff.
Eat for Energy recipe book, when I designed that, those meal plans that are included in there and those recipes are designed to be supportive for this. So,
Oh,
like,
so amazing.
specifically designed if you're struggling with blood sugar and adrenal issues, it's like we're tackling both at once. And your gut is thrown in there too. So yeah, if you're wondering, there's like detailed meal plans all laid out for you with tons of recipes. So perfect resource if you want to check something like that out, if you need more guidance. Thank you
So yeah,
for
so important. It's
reminding
such
me,
a,
Angela.
yeah, it's so great. I mean, that's just an easy way to like get answers there in the food department. Okay. So other reasons why you could be experiencing dizziness. So you kind of want to like be going down the list, right? And like marking like which ones do you want to start addressing, which ones, and to hopefully start to, if dizziness is a big thing for you, then you can start kind of checking off the list. Okay, this is something I need to address. This isn't really something I feel like is up for me. Okay, so the next big one, um, I think a lot of people maybe not don't know about is hydration in regards to dizziness. So kind of both ends of the spectrum, right? So are dehydrated or too hydrated? So let's talk. Would you mind talking about that, Danielle, a little bit?
Yeah, and this is another one that kind of encompasses this whole nourishment thing, right? So sometimes
Yeah.
when we're dehydrated, I mean, dehydration can cause a drop in blood pressure, which can lead to feelings of dizziness. But there's also something going on behind the scenes with your mineral balance, right? And a lot of the times, adrenal issues is also paired blood sugar issues, but also mineral imbalances are very common as well. So when you're chronically dehydrated and you're not getting those, like, foundational electrolytes, 100% it can lead to feelings of dizziness. And almost just to take this out of context, I mean, when we're feeling dizzy in everyday life, it can feel, it feels weird and it feels scary. And we've talked about like the anxiety that can go along with that. But when you put, like, a lot of us have commonly felt this in scenarios, maybe where we're in a fitness class and we're working out, we push a little bit too hard and we start to feel that kind of spinny, lightheaded feeling. And we don't often freak out right away when we experience that symptom in that scenario, because there's a number of things that we're doing that could lead to that symptom. So a lot of the times is it low blood pressure, right? Like, I don't know about you, Angela, but I've experienced this where when I haven't eaten enough and have done a fitness class where I just get the spins, and all it takes is me
Absolutely.
to just change my nutrition before a class like that for the next time to kind of help me feel good as I do that class in the future. So it's the
Yes.
nourishment part, but the most common one when you're working out is hydration, right? Like, okay, I need to stop, I need to have a break, and I need to hydrate. So when you're dehydrated, of course, like, it's your cells when you are dehydrated are in a state of stress. And that has many symptoms in the body, and dizziness 100% could be one of them.
Yeah, that's helpful. And I think I have this as well. I mean, I have low blood pressure, very low blood pressure, and it's something that I just know that it's just a part of me. And so I know how to address it. And it shows up. I mean, I'm a yoga teacher, so it shows up when I'm, going into Warrior Three or any upside down positions. If I get up too fast, I will experience that rush. So it's just helpful for me to know because I have clarity that that's just what's going on in my body and I don't really have much to be scared of. It's a nice awareness. And when I say awareness, I mean, it's a message my body is telling me something. And I definitely notice that if I prepare, like you were saying ahead of time, and hydrate properly and eat balanced meals, I'm not going to feel that as much. It's those days that I'm a little off in my schedule, my routine, that I might have more of that dizziness showing up when I'm in my yoga practice.
Yeah, it's so good to have this awareness. And then on the other side of the spectrum, there's cases where we're maybe too hydrated. And you see this there. So these days there's a lot of hype around drinking like all this water, which is great. Our body needs water. But adrenal issues, again, paired with often excessive coffee drinking, if we're feeling really burnt out, we might be over consuming diuretics like caffeine or coffee or other energy drinks. And then we could be adding a lot of water on top of that and going to the bathroom more frequently, another common symptom. So when you get into this scenario where you're drinking tons of water, you're having a lot of diuretics and going to the bathroom a lot, you could actually get into a situation where you're overhydrating and flushing minerals too frequently. So it all kind of comes together like a perfect storm. And when then you're lacking those minerals, that's when our blood pressure might not respond as quickly, and we might experience more dizziness day to day in everyday life.
Oh, that's so helpful. Okay, so how do we know what the right amount of water, to drink for our bodies is? How would you say would be a good indicator?
A good rule of thumb is just to divide your weight by 2 in pounds. So if you are 100 pounds, let's keep it simple, 100 pounds, so it would be 50 pounds, right? And you would drink that amount in ounces of water a day. So
Okay.
32 ounces is 1 liter. So on average, most people need about around two to 3 liters, like 3 liters, sometimes 4, depending on your weight. But you do the math, see where you fit in, and then just shoot for that. That's a really good rule of thumb and a great place to start.
Ugh, so helpful. Okay, wonderful. So, okay, so we've talked about hydration, nourishment, electrolyte balance. Oh yeah, let's talk about that for a moment. So getting the right electrolyte balance too, what's a simple thing that people can do to address that balance and support themselves if they know that that might be an issue for them?
So if you have that awareness that electrolytes are maybe something that you're lacking, simple things, and one of my favorite ones, adding a little sprinkle of quality sea salt to your water is really nice. And I mean, there's all these homemade Gatorades, or these not energy drinks, but the sport drinks, like
Yes.
a Gatorade, Powerade are the ones that are coming to my mind. You can make them at home by adding a splash of maple syrup. This is one of my favorites. Splash of maple syrup, squeeze of lemon, and a little bit of sea salt. You get this nice mineral rich kind of sweet drink that's easy to enjoy. You can bring it to the gym with you. It gives you a little extra kick when it comes to electrolytes. But I mean, there's also tons of supplements out there that contain electrolytes. So if you're really deficient, even you can just add a bit of that to water, and it just kind of helps you cover your bases. But definitely a great resource that we have available these days if you feel that
Super
that's
simple, right? So very
yeah.
affordable strategy. But I have to tell you guys that dehydration is sort of where my body goes. Like if I'm dehydrated, I have lots of different symptoms that show up in my body. And so for me, it's like this part of my morning, especially my morning routine. That's the first thing I do in the morning. Um, and it's so important to get that right in the morning for me to get started right. As some of you know, right now I'm up all night breastfeeding my son, and I have, of course, that's a hydration issue. Like you have to be super hydrated to have a good milk supply. And like I wake up sort of like my baseline is like low because I'm not drinking as much water when I'm sleeping, but yet, so it's like that is like such a key part of my morning. So I know you might not be breastfeeding, whatever, but what my point is that this part is like so crucial for me. This is part of my morning routine after I brush my teeth and scrape my tongue. Like it's like up there with like the most important thing. So just wanted to reiterate that. And thank you, Danielle, for that.
Yeah, and thank you so much for sharing. I really think that this needs to be part of all of our morning routines. I mean, breastfeeding or not, there's tons of metabolic processes that are happening while we sleep, right? Like so much rejuvenation, so much repair action that happens while we sleep. Such a kind thing that you can do for your body instead of just waking up, rolling out of bed, reaching for that coffee or that tea. Just hydrate first. Have a nice glass of water, add a little squirt of lemon or a little like splash of lemon. And it's just a gentle, really like standard thing that you can add to your routine that's so supportive. Because you're right, the symptoms of dehydration, they really creep up on you. And when it comes to energy in general, like dehydration can make you feel like you have low energy. So if you're burnt out, this is
Absolutely.
something you can't really afford to overlook.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, good connection. Another thing I thought about when you were talking is the idea that too is just the your bowel movements, right? Just your digestion in general. If you don't drink enough water, and especially in the morning, like that's one of the biggest things that helps me to sort of keep regular. And that was when I was suffering from adrenal fatigue stage 3, like that was one of the biggest barriers to my recovery, was not having regularity with my bowel movements. And once I was able to get that on track, so many other things started to make sense, or to kind of level out, so, or just balance out. So another key piece there.
So
Okay,
important.
loving this conversation.
Yeah.
I hope this is helpful for everyone out there. um, okay, so let's talk about more about deficiencies, and there's a few more there I think that we could talk about, right?
Yeah, 100%. And what I love about this conversation is these things, everything that we're saying to you is not crazy, right? Like it's not too intimidating to kind of check in on this stuff and take action to fix it. It's actually quite simple things that you can do.
Yes.
And deficiencies, this is huge. And if anyone out there has ever experienced anemia in some shape or form, low iron, you'll know how like out of sorts you may feel in your head. Like dizziness is such a common symptom. We've
Yes.
chatted about this extensively before, and if you've ever felt this way and then taken an iron supplement, you feel yourself come into balance. It's night and day difference. There's a couple different nutrient deficiencies that can create this symptom. So getting basic blood work done is really important and so empowering and insightful.
Awesome. Okay. So iron deficiency, and iron supplements are something that you want to make sure, right, that we've talked about this before too, especially inside our community. Like you don't want to be taking iron if it's not something that your body needs. So you want to like not just jump to like taking it because, oh, you heard it on the podcast that you might be iron deficient if you're dizzy. Get that clarity first, right? And so I'm
Yeah.
glad you mentioned basic testing.
Yeah, just don't run out and start grabbing supplements. We never really recommend that because, and if you, even if you are anemic, that anemia can be coming from many different types of deficiencies. It's not always just the iron. So, I mean, B vitamins too, deficiencies of B vitamins is something that can lead to this sensation as well. But there are other things, many other things as well. So just getting the basic blood panel done and having your doctor review it, at least having that peace of mind, how everything looks, if you are experiencing this symptom on the regular, is going to give you another layer of peace of mind, or at least clarity as to what is going on. Super
Yeah.
important.
Super important. And then for those who are already taking iron, let's say, know they have iron deficiency and are taking iron and they don't really feel like it helps. I mean, there's also something there too, like making sure that you're absorbing the iron, making sure you have a good iron supplement. I think that's important too, just because that's an issue that comes up for people, right?
I mean, it's not always easily well absorbed. So that's definitely something you can chat with your doctor about too. And looking at the other layers to anemia behind it. Like I said, the B vitamin deficiency is a big one. Like, are you addressing the right thing? Are you taking your iron with other vitamins like calcium? So it can actually block the absorption. So just being mindful, there's a lot of things to consider when it comes to the supplemental side of things and how things are being absorbed and what you're actually deficient in. But it's a great thing to explore in any sense and chat with your doctor about because can make a, like I said, make a night and day difference in how you feel.
Yes. And it's something that our integrative doctors, definitely address, and also have different options if you feel like you need that sort of advice and moving forward with things. If it's not working with your general practitioner and you want you want to go down a different path, just know that that's an option. And there's other forms of iron you get through liquid that are really great, that have those the different things that you're talking about, like B vitamins and calcium, things that you need to absorb it. So just knowing that, like, if you're out there, if you're still exploring that and you're still questions, just know that there's a lot more answers there. And sometimes when you work with an integrative doctor, they're going to get deeper and deeper on some of those topics.
Totally.
Okay. So we talked about deficiencies. I think we talked about like pushing too hard. I think that kind of goes along with, right, like pushing too hard in any department. Like if you're not taking care of yourself and not nourishing yourself on any level, you're going to dizziness is sort of this idea that it's almost like what happens when you feel like that overwhelmed too, right? So if you're pushing too hard and you just haven't had any time to slow down, you might also experience dizziness because of that feeling of like stress and overwhelm. And stress often happens when we don't feel like we can handle something, right? Like that it feels way bigger than what we can do. And so that alone, that anxiety feeling can cause dizziness too, right?
Yeah, maybe a good question to ask yourself in this scenario is, when was the last time I took a break? I mean, when you think about dizziness as a symptom, it's not a symptom like a stomach ache or a headache that makes you, that you can function kind of normally with, depending on the severity, right? There's a lot of
Right.
symptoms out that we can live with. Dizziness is one that literally makes us sit down or sometimes lie down because we don't feel well, and it makes us stop. So if our body is, and this is kind of like maybe a more emotional, energetic connection,
Right.
making you take this pause to actually sit and lie down, asking yourself, when was the last time I actually did this? And do I need a break? And have I been pushing all morning or pushing all afternoon or pushing all day, pushing? And now my body is just demanding a break, because your body
Yes.
tells you what it needs, right? So we need to, if in this case, it's like your body's screaming at you, it's giving you a symptom that is really hard to ignore. So I
Yes.
love that we're having this conversation, because I think it's so important, especially all you type A's out there who are burnt out, you have adrenal fatigue, and whether you're type A or not, just pushing and pushing and trying to be productive and do it all. It takes a toll. And if you're experiencing dizziness on the regular, it's totally worth it to ask this question and to just check in on how your self-care has been.
Definitely. Okay. I wanted to talk about what the emotion behind the dizziness is. And we always refer to this sort of Louise Hay, right?
Yeah.
Who talks about the emotions connected with the symptoms. So I was trying to recall it in my brain, but it's still not coming, but I'm going to wait a moment. But okay. So let's talk about like medications, why you might have dizziness with, or talk a little bit about this, about side effects of medications, supplements, things like that,
Right. And
in
so
regards to dizziness.
this is another big one. And if you have adrenal fatigue out there and you're listening, and you might have noticed some people, and it's pretty common, have increased sensitivity to supplements and medications. And it seems like it came out of nowhere. Like, you used to maybe be able to take all this stuff. Maybe you've always been a little bit sensitive, but sometimes we get to a point where we're a little bit extra sensitive to how these things make us feel. And there, of course, it is a side effect of probably many medications out there. Um, but also, so it's asking, okay, what did I take today? Did I take this? Did I take this medication? Did I take this supplement? Am I doing something new? Did I take too much? So it just looking into what you're taking and in what dose and when can be helpful as well. And understanding that with adrenal issues and burnout, increased supplement sensitivity is really common. So if you're taking a lot of things, sometimes it's nice to maybe explore and take a break or cut back and see how you feel without them.
Yeah, no, I think it's just something that, yeah, I think it's an awareness of like really just being aware of what you are taking, and also if it's not working for you, to address that with your doctor and talking about different dosage, so yeah, I think it's just something that we need to really be in tune with our bodies, which, sometimes takes a little bit of practice.
Yeah, it's important. So just check in with what you're taking and how you're taking it, and understanding that underlying conditions too can cause dizziness. And I think this is one of the things that freaks people out a little bit more. If you do have some sort of underlying condition, maybe that you don't know about. So when you start Googling what it can be, that's where that anxiety can creep in. And dizziness can be a symptom of so many different types of things, right? So this is where if you're not sure, it's always good to do that basic panel of just to explore the nutrient deficiencies with your doctor, but just to rule anything like this out, just to make sure if you're experiencing this too chronically. I mean, everybody kind of experiences it a little bit every now and then, but if you're experiencing this all the time, every day, if it's becoming debilitating, then you really do want to look into what's going on. But please don't forget to ask yourself these questions that we've been going through today on this call, because sometimes it is just like it's nourishment, it's dehydration, it's pushing, it's a little bit of all of these things mixed together. So having that good sense to check in on where you're at, but working with your doctor is going to help give you that awareness, that insight, and that empowerment to deal with it more effectively.
Awesome. Okay. So, and then last, I mean, kind of the most important probably is just in regards to adrenal fatigue is that connection with hormones and how hormones themselves can create some dizziness as well. And this is, I would love to have a conversation with one of our doctors about this and have them on sometime to talk more about this. But just in those hormonal events in our lives, I mean, we can imagine some people have them in their cycle, right? You can have them when you're pregnant. You could have them, you know, there's different times where those of us that experience these hormonal events will notice that there's more dizziness than others. So that's also a reason or culprit as to why you might be experiencing dizziness. So in that case, it's just important, like we always say, to get some clarity on your hormones. Don't just guess, get tested. And those types of fluctuations in your day-to-day in your hormones could be the trigger or the reason why.
Yeah, that's
Right.
great to bring up too. And even just coming back to fight or flight, right? This physiological response that your body goes into when it's in a state of stress is one of the things that occurs in that physiological reaction is blood pressure increases, right? And blood is shunted away from things like your digestion to your limbs so that you can run away and fight or flee, right? So this shift in blood pressure, and especially paired when you get to the more burnt out stages, maybe where you're lacking nutrients, lacking minerals, you've been pushing for a while and your body's burnt out, the response might not be working as effectively anymore. And it's the way that your body is communicating with your endocrine system, right? So it's not like the glands are just shutting down and your body's not working properly. It's often a communication issue. And I mean, the whys behind this mechanism we've talked about extensively in other podcasts as well. It gets wrapped up in this when it's chronic, right? So all of these things can implicate it. And again, blood pressure with this hormonal response is essentially what I wanted to say. They're linked together, right? The rise in blood pressure is connected to the fight or flight. And so if it's not working effectively, we might feel that in a weird way.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for clarifying that.
One thing that might feel stressful as you walk away from this, if you've explored all of these things and you haven't really gotten clarity on underlying conditions, that can feel stressful if you've tried a lot of things and you aren't getting answers. Again, working with an integrative doctor, there's so many things that you can explore. If you're getting the response that everything looks fine in your blood work, but you're still experiencing this symptom really regularly, things like mold toxicity and environmental exposures and heavy metals and looking into what's going on in your gut. I mean, there's so many different ways and places that we can look to explore more deeply. So if you're feeling frustrated, if you're feeling stuck, work with an integrative practitioner who really specializes in they do specialize at looking at the whole picture. And so if the blood test is saying one thing and you want to go deeper, this is something that you can look into and get more answers and take things to the next level. So just keep exploring if that's you. And I don't really want to create any more stress around the underlying condition, because I know that can be a big one that triggers a lot of people in a lot of different ways. But there's so much available now more than ever. If you need support in finding the right practitioner, let us know. We can help point you in the right direction.
Absolutely. Thank you for mentioning that. That's super important. So hopefully this was helpful to all of you. Thank you again, Danielle, for all of your wisdom.
Thank
And
you.
I hope, yeah, you all have a beautiful day.